Okay. Today is Monday. It is 9:40 p.m. It is May 25th. Okay. And it is the second day of the trading week. Monday was a Memorial Day, and as I start from going day one to day two to day three, since the start of something like a trading challenge, is that there's a start day, and then there is a day that ends as far as the accomplishing the phase one and phase two is concerned, right? So then I traded. So for the challenge, it has been 3 days. Okay, it has been 3 days. Yesterday, I made a small gain, and I was okay with that because it was a holiday. It was a Memorial Day, right? Then I'm waiting for the European market to open. Okay, and I'm stepping through the. So essentially, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the EU. I'm looking at the AU. I'm looking at the EG and some of the other ones, right? Like UJ, typically the UC and the Nasdaq, and then the Dow and the SPX, and keeping my eye on the oil, how it fluctuates. Okay, and then also observing what Bitcoin is doing. Okay, I'm looking at the price. Okay, I'm looking at the price to see what it's doing. Then I thought to myself, okay, so then I started looking at AU, the gold. Okay, so what I noticed is this. Okay, what I noticed is that there is a resistance at 45.78. Okay, 45.78, 45.79, right around there. And then what it did was currently at the time of 143, which is May 26th uh, in the session. Okay, forex session, which is May 26th. Okay, May 26th in the year 2026, currently at about 1:40 a.m. Okay, currently 1:48 a.m. It had established a support, which is at 45.28. Okay, so there is a resistance at 45.79, and there's a resistance at their support at 45.27. Okay, then I thought to myself, okay, so now for me, many people trade the shorts because the movement is more significant, it's fast, and they're able to see. I can look at it here. I mean, I can look at the time period here at 12:19 on May 25th, according to Match Trader timestamp, which is right now when I have my cursor on it. It is at 12:19 May 25th. Okay, and so I can see that it hit resistance and dropped all the way down to the support. Okay, the previous support, and it is a very red sequence of candles. Okay, it's a very red sequence of candles that hit the support, and the drop is abrupt and fast. But if I look at the way that the price had moved up to the resistance, it is gradual to the resistance area. And then as it dropped, then it started to move back up, 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 up. But it took a gradual move. Okay, so if I look at the time period, if I use the ruler to figure this out, the drop occurred in about 40 minutes. Okay, the drop occurred in 40 minutes. Okay, now in order to cover the same distance, it required 11 hours to reach that resistance. And so the drop is abrupt, but when it moves up, it takes 11 hours. It takes less than 1 hour to drop, but it takes 11 hours to move back up. Okay, so now I can see why some of the professionals uh, they prefer to look for the shorting opportunities instead of looking for long opportunities, because the long opportunities take a long time. Okay, to go up, right? And so I heard somebody mention this, about taking trades. Okay, is it going to be long position or short position? And they're saying that they prefer to take the short position because the movements is fast and fast, okay, and large. That's why they like that, okay. But as a retail trader, it's more favorable because I'm more familiar with it, despite the fact that despite despite the fact that the efficacy is lower, uh, the the uh, the entry into trading is more favorable to going long. That's what most people do as a novice trader. But as a professional trader becomes more aware of how the patterns are generated, generally speaking, going short allows a shorter time period with a bigger amount of gain. That's why they favor that. Okay, so the switch occurs at a certain point in the career of a trader. Okay, so then I thought to myself, okay, so and I'm looking through the price action for EU and AU. I'm looking at it, right? I'm looking at it right here. And when I look at this, I'm looking at, okay, so then I thought to myself, okay, so I can enter into the trade, but there's no assurance that the price is going to move in my direction, except for that statistical probability, okay? And that statistical probability coincides with uh, certain positions, certain locations that generates that has a undercurrent, that has an undercurrent of momentum associated with it. So even if the price is moving up, okay, even if the price is moving up without momentum, there is a high chance that uh, it could be a choppy market or result in a fake out. Okay, it could do that, and so the thing that pops into my mind whenever I'm facing a trade after having 3 successful days is, okay, now I'm looking at it. And so when I take the trade, there is an associated risk. There is a risk that is associated with any action that I take in trading. Okay? When I place a trade, there's going to be a risk. Okay? There is a risk that I have to be aware of. Okay? So then, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so well, didn't Kevin Costner make a movie called Dances with Wolves? Okay, I thought it was Dancing with Wolves. Okay, so what's the significance of the title? Okay, usually wolves are very dangerous beasts. Okay, wolves are very, very formidable predators in nature. Okay, and so when you're dancing with wolves, you're dancing with danger. Okay, wolves are very smart. Apparently, they're wolves have a very high IQ compared to dogs. Okay, apparently wolves have a very, very high IQ. Okay, compared to other dogs. I mean, and uh, comparing with human intelligence level, apparently they're way up there. Okay, whereas normal dogs they're like maybe a newborn or something like that. But the wolves are very smart, and so anytime I'm dances with wolves it is essentially saying that wolves are a formidable natural predators, and anytime I tangle with them, I'm I'm living in their world. Okay, especially where the scene is for this movie, which is essentially a soldier who's been placed in the outpost and interacting with the Native Americans plus the wolves that are out there, right? And so in trading, it's very similar, okay? Because I'm the one who's making the trade, okay? All right. So I don't give my money for somebody else to trade, okay? Of course, it can be done that way, right? Based on certain money management kind of agreement that I have. But somebody who's making money, why would they do that, right? Why would so so if you so Warren Buffett is so Warren Buffett takes money from other people and then invests it, okay, along with his money, okay. So he's using that based on the leverage. He's creating a leverage, okay. So that's the benefit of him having other investors investing with him, because it creates a leverage for him. Whereas his limited amount of money is in many of the cases are incapable of taking on certain business acquisitions, because the money that's required to acquire certain businesses requires more money than it can have. Okay, and so it's good to have. I believe that's his principle. Okay, if he wanted to, he could just use his money and solely make money from his money, right? But he's taken on the task of taking his money and taking other people's money, and then looking out for businesses that require not just his money but other people's money, right? Okay, so this whole principle, which I found out, and I've been trading for 5.5 years and losing every day. Okay, and a thought that's popped in the back of my mind is this: as I was trying to look for a setup, and when I was looking for the setup, I'm thinking, okay, there's risk involved. Okay, there's a risk that's involved. So anytime I make a trade, there's a risk involved. Okay, so the difference between yesterday and today is that there's a gap in between where I did not trade. Okay, so that means that there is a possibility. There is a there. So anytime there in a humid type of anytime there is an environment where the surface of the iron is exposed to the air is made up of approximately about 30% oxygen, and oxygen interacts with the iron, and iron and oxygen creates rust. Okay, it creates rust. Okay, it's iron oxygen mixture. It creates rust. The nitrogen doesn't interact with the iron. Okay, but the oxygen does. Okay, and so what happens is there's rust that occurs anytime a surface has been finely cultivated throughout the trading experience for that previous day. As the trading session occurs, as the practices are made, which is essentially polishing the surface area to keep the surface fresh of rust. Okay, but there is a bit of rust that occurs between yesterday and today, and especially when there's a holiday. When a holiday is involved, there's a limited amount of trade, and the type of trade that are made is different than what will unfold today, because today is a full session where the Nasdaq is open and the Dow is open and the world market is open. Okay, but yesterday, the Nasdaq and the Dow Jones was closed, which means that the trading was lighter and the movements were lighter, despite the fact that oil had moved significantly. It's a little bit. It's up a little bit today. Okay, it's up a little bit today, right? But uh, so that means going into the market. Okay, I'm looking through. I'm sequencing through what I did not even think about in the past. Okay, so I imagine what happens is this: when somebody's essentially a world class athlete like the Olympic 100-meter racer is, they're going to really think about every moment within that short burst of time, less than 10 seconds. Okay. So these people are able to travel from start to the end within less than 10 seconds and travel 100 meters. Okay. 100 meters, less than 10 seconds. And so within that split, within that sub 10 seconds, they have to strategize what they're going to do. Because what happens, I'm likening the experience of, which essentially is risk. Okay, it's risk. I'm trying to like expand upon that, right? But essentially what happens in between races, there's going to be rust that's built up. Okay, and only during the race am I able to use the practices that I have cultivated to use, because also most likely I'm not going to be learning anything new when I'm in that race. Okay, there chances are the probability of coming up with something new won't be there, because most likely what I would do is I would take what I've learned and practiced and then use it in that environment, right? Okay, so that's how it works. So what I normally do is this. Okay, I talk about uh, what I'm doing as a trader. Once I talk about what I'm doing as a trader, it allows me uh, greater awareness of what trading is. Okay, it gives me an idea. It allows me to understand. Okay, it allows me to become more familiar with what trading is as I start to talk about it. Okay. So then there is that risk. There is that risk of not knowing fully what uh, not not knowing fully what uh, the best way of trading is initially, because there's going to be a bit of rust. Okay, from Friday to today, because on Monday there was a holiday. Okay, and so the trading was slightly different too, and so trading was different. Okay, so then and I was a bit hesitant to make a trade. I was a bit hesitant to make a decision. Okay, I was a bit hesitant to make a decision about what I would do, what position I would take. Okay, what my thesis will be. Okay, then I thought to myself, okay, so every situation that I'm about to take is essentially a very dangerous situation, because I don't fully know what the result is going to be. Okay. See, when I was a novice trader, that didn't matter at all. Okay, it didn't matter at all. Okay, because because I didn't know what to recognize, but I had to make a trade, and I had to make a trade with big size, because the objective was for me to make money. Whether I knew how to trade, okay, whether the setup was right, whether I knew what the trend is, was irrelevant. Okay, in my when I initially started this, when I initially, okay, wow, the couple of days of rest really helped out. It really helped out. Okay, the schedule change that I had, which essentially is now working as a dishwasher on Saturdays, and then now like the sleep schedule is completely, those things just threw a monkey wrench. Now I'm like finally getting adjusted to it. Now I'm back to what I was doing, talking about what I did. Okay, about the specific topics of trading, so that I can elaborate on it and expand upon it. Okay, so today coming in, even though this is Asian market, I'm not going to be trading the Asian market. I'm not going to trade the Asian market. Because what seems to be happening is what I seem to do is that uh, it goes back to that 7%. I was up 7%, okay, and then somehow I rolled into trading the Asian market. I don't know why, because maybe I thought, since I was successful in the European market, barely successful in the European market and the New York market, that I could easily transition to trading the Asian market. But what I found out is that Asian market is can be very slow. Okay, and then when it moves against me, it can be deceptively slow until it's too late. And so because of that, when I enter, it doesn't move fast enough, and it sits there. Okay, it sits there uh, because I am unable to recognize the momentum of within the Asian market, because it moves different. And so uh, when I lose the focus of momentum, then I have a disadvantage. Okay, all right. I would make a trade, I put some size in, and then it'll be sitting there with a loss for quite a while, and it just messes up with my mind. Okay, and that's why I attempt to avoid trading the Asian market. So far today, and for the past couple of days, I was able to avoid trading the Asian market, and that has been the successful formula that got me to 7%. So I'm going on the same I'm going on the same path here. Okay, but this time around, what I'm now aware is that when I get to about 7%, I'm aware of the significance of how close I am, needing just 1% to pass the phase one. Okay, and so So I'm now aware of the triggers that I feel when I get to the point where, especially the first loss, and that creates a trigger in me that could cause a tilt to occur. So I need to be aware of that. Okay, I need to be aware of that. So now, okay, so yesterday I made roughly about 0.2%, which is essentially for a 10K account, it's about 18 bucks, right? 18 bucks, 18, 19 bucks. And I purposely avoided the confrontation with the market yesterday because I knew that it was a Memorial Day a holiday, and even though the forex market is open, uh, I could see that the market was slow, and usually when the market is slow, it's a lot more difficult. Okay, so think about this. Okay, so this is year 2001. Okay, year 2000 year this is like 26 years ago. Okay, and the market was like at its height. Okay, it was the semiconductor market was at its height. Okay, and then 2001 rolls over and everything crashed. Okay, so when everything crashes, the market is suppressed. And when it's suppressed, what that causes is fear. And so people won't trade the market. And so the movements are small. And so it's a very, 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 it's essentially, it is a very, very quiet market. Okay. And so in order to make money, because everybody has left, because nobody's interested, the volatility had died down. Okay. So it's very similar to that. And that's what the Asian market does in many of the instances because it's sitting between macroeconomic news that usually stirs it up, and the participants are less. That's precisely that's precisely how it behaved right after the 2000 year 2000 like everything was like maxed out, but it took like many years before the price of the stocks came back to the value. Okay, now it's even higher. Okay, so people who took advantage of it, they said, okay, so people who took advantage of that would have made tremendous amount of money like 25 years ago. About 25, 26 years ago when they started to pile in at that moment, it would have been an incredible amount of gain, right? Okay, so uh, I started to look at the price action here, and I thought to myself, well, I'm a bit hesitant. Okay, I'm a bit hesitant because I wasn't sure. Okay, in most cases, I'm not sure either. But what I need to do is I need to be aware of the two most popular things that I have uh, in my tool to participate in the market. I have to keep that in mind. So when I made that conscious, when I thought about that, when I thought about the couple of tools that I have to participate in the market, and when I looked at what the situation is, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, the volatility is not there for me to enter. Okay, the setups could be there, but the volatility is not there. Okay, so the volatility is not there, and so I'm looking. Okay, so I'm looking at AU, and I'm thinking, okay, so I'm looking at the current price and the current structure of the price, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so uh, if I were to enter into that price, uh, I could be wrong. Okay, I could be wrong. Most likely, I could be wrong. Okay, most likely I am wrong because because I have a distinct disadvantage at this moment because the is price is just sitting there. It's not moving in a significant manner. Okay, it's not moving. It's not moving in a manner where it has momentum for me to leverage off of. Okay, it helps to have a direction, which a trend has been established, and that trend has been established, and the added confluence of the momentum that says, okay, when that trend has established with the support of momentum, it's going to move to a certain amount with a higher probability that from the point where it started, it's going to reach to a certain point, probably to the point where it's going to reach resistance. Okay. Okay. So for the past couple of days, I have to be self-conscious of what I was doing. It's like I had this analogy of this individual who was in jail, okay, and who was a drug user, and the person had like a fish eyes because I was so tired. I was so tired because of these two things. The shift in my schedule, which now for that particular day I have to like walk for 4.5 hours, and then lift things, heavy things, okay, for 4.5 hours, which is different than what I was doing as a prep cook, okay. So that made me into a zombie for the past couple of days, okay, and so I wasn't able to like think logically, think straight, or make connections, new connections, because it is very similar to like it is very similar to on a hot summer day going up on the roof, and then putting a new roof, okay, right? I've done that before, and then what happens right afterwards is uh, I get really tired, and then until I recover, okay. So recovering is recharging my batteries. That's one, and then also having my mind get enough rest, and then have enough liquid in me to recharge myself. Okay, and so that's what happened to me for the past couple of days. Okay, so now I'm back. Okay, now I'm back. The couple of days has been very traumatic for me. It has it has been a very traumatic situation. Okay, as a homeless man, okay, I need to spend every moment that I have working on this. Okay, because that's my ticket out. Okay, I do not have the luxury of I do not have the luxury of doing something else. I can't be doing that because I would be self-conscious of myself, okay? Here I am, I'm 57 years old, and 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 what else am I going to do? Okay? I'd rather be working on this to make something better for myself, okay? That means that I can spend time on it, or at least be close to what I'm trying to do, okay? So then I thought to myself, okay, so when I make a trade, it is essentially swimming with the sharks. It is essentially a dances with wolves. All right, and it's essentially dances with risk. And what is the wolf in trading? It's risk. It's risk. Okay. The wolves of Wall Street manifests itself on a personal level to me as risk. Okay? Right? So just like fishing, I put bait on there, and the cost of the bait, there's a specific cost to placing a bait, okay, into the hook. When I throw it into the ocean, okay, there's a specific cost. Okay? I could cast out there 10 times, and if I reel in a winner, okay, um, I heard one of the best tasting sushi fish. Okay, the mackerel is oily. Okay, and apparently there's wahoo. Yeah, wahoo. I heard wahoo is one of the best tasting sushi fish. Right next to tuna, I think. Okay, but wahoo is apparently is one of the best tasting sushi out there. Okay, and so in order for me to catch that, it's going to be a humdinger when I catch it, right? But I have to. But it's not a sure thing. It's like the swordfish. Okay, it's the analogy of placing a risk, throwing out the risk. Okay, and now I'm conscious of I am fearful. Okay, I am fearful of losing the risk. Okay, that I put out there. Okay, all right. Whereas before, because I was so naive, my thinking was even though I was losing 90% of the time, even though I was losing 90, actually 100% of the time on okay, it's not 100%. Okay, so I would win sometimes, right? So even though I was winning 1 out of 10 times, okay, I was so confident. I didn't think of I didn't think of the risk. I didn't think of how effective my setup is. I didn't think about what practice did for me. Okay, I didn't and in many of the instances, I didn't realize the difference between trading the AU, and I didn't realize between the AU and EU, and I didn't realize the difference between UJ and UC. I didn't see it. I didn't see the difference. Okay. Now I'm beginning to see that. Okay. Now I'm seeing the trading world with a better understanding, a little bit of more clarity of what's going on. And so when I'm placing a trade, I'm essentially putting on risk, okay? And the size of risk is based on the size of risk. Okay, so when I'm putting on a trade, I'm putting on a risk, okay? And the risk size varies based on it needs to be based on the stop loss, right? Also, it has to be based on how much I allocate as a loss per trade, okay? How much I'm going to allocate for a trade. And then the risk is going to be associated with an equation based on the risk size and the stop loss, okay? Because if the stop loss is big, then I have to reduce the amount of the risk size, okay? Risk size, so that I can accommodate it, so that when it moves to the stop loss, it meets that percentage loss that I have in mind, okay? Right? And so I looked at AU, and so this is just purely for me. It's not going to make any sense for other people, but I'm trying to get clarity into this trading. Okay, currently it's about 10 o'clock, 2 hours before the European market opens. Okay, now I'm flowing. My thinking is flowing. The way that I'm talking is much better. But for the past couple days, I was like tripping over my own words because I was trying to recover. Okay, I'm grateful for the restaurant that I'm working at, that I'm a dishwasher there, which affords me the rent here. So I'm thankful. Okay, and then I'm thankful. I'm thankful that Regis is allowing me to work on this. Okay, so I'm thankful. Okay, so I'm looking at this situation. I'm looking at that now. Now I can feel. I can see it. I'm conscious. I'm conscious of how my tongue is wagging. Okay, I can hear it. I can feel it. I know what's going on. Okay, I understand it. Okay, I can see it. Okay, I can see it. I can hear it. I am conscious of my own actions. Okay. So people talk about, okay, taking your own temperature. Okay. So people talk about like taking your own temperature before you take a trade. Okay. People talk about taking your own temperature when you take a trade because you're trying to become conscious of how prepared. I'm trying to decide how prepared I am in making a trade. Right. Right. So now I'm conscious. I can see a clear difference between yesterday and today, because I was like fumbling over my own thoughts yesterday, but now I can see it. I can see the difference. I have clarity in my thinking. Okay. I have clarity in my thinking, which is good. Which is good. All right. Which is good. So the game plan is this. I know that I have a little bit of rust, okay? I know that I have a little bit of rust before the market opens, okay? So what I have to do is, because the day will provide several opportunities, okay? The day will provide several opportunities for me to make some trades, okay? There will be. Okay, the price doesn't sit there and move sideways all the time, okay? Not like yesterday. The price will do is when the market is operating in a normal manner, what it will do is it will go from support to resistance, support to resistance, and it's going to do that multiple times between the European market open and European market close. The same way that's going to happen in the U.S. market from open to U.S. market close. So there's going to be several opportunities, okay? Probably at least 10 times, 5 each, okay? So that means that I can burn a couple opportunities with a small size to get myself in the game. Okay, I can. So what I can expect to do, is practice a little bit to take the rust off of the Saturday and a Sunday and a Monday. Okay, Saturday, Sunday, and a Monday. It's 3 days. It's a long amount of days, and so a significant trade hasn't been made. And so if I rush into it, and knowing and having respect for my own mind, to make sense of something that truly isn't supposed to be making sense, even though it does make sense. It does make sense if I have the capability of understanding it. But because I am new to the market, truly what needs to occur is that in most cases it shouldn't make any sense. That's the way it should be. Okay, because I'm not a pro trader. Okay, I've traded for 5.5 years, but I'm not profitable. Okay, and so I should be fearful of the market. Okay, so now I'm at a point where so then I realized, okay, so every trade is like, it's like dancing with the wolves. Okay, every trade is like dancing with the wolves. Every trade is like dancing with sharks. Every trade has a potential to wreck my account. Every trade, whether it's going to be psychologically damaging or it's going to be a severely drawdown compromised. Okay, it's going to be one of those two things. Okay, it can be both compounding, and it could just essentially aggravate the situation even more. Okay, so so I haven't really thought about this. I haven't talked to anybody about this, right? So now I'm actually talking. Okay, instead of like yelling at myself, screaming at myself for making mistakes. Now I'm talking about it. Okay, before the trade actually occurs, now I'm talking about it. I'm preparing myself. I'm becoming aware of what the situation is. Okay, and what my involvement is in trading. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Okay, and I wanna like elaborate on it so that I speak it, so I listen to it and I figure out what's going on. Okay. Right now I've talked so much. I'm thinking, okay, so maybe I'm just like running on. Maybe I'm just like talking too much. Maybe I'm just talking gibberish and things like that. But I need to keep talking. I need to keep talking. I have to I have to make sure. Okay. Okay. So currently, my result right now is positive. Okay, and I said on the previous video is that 8% is equal to 7%. 7% is equal to 6%. 6% is equal to 5%. 5% is equal to 4%. Okay, 4% is equal to 3%. 3% is equal to 2%. 2% is equal to 1%. And 1%, okay, is equal to 2%. Okay? And 2% is equal to 3%. So essentially 1% is equal to 8%. 2% is equal to 8%. 3% is equal to 8%. Okay? 8% is a pass. Okay? And so currently I have more than 2%, okay? Which means that I've already, based on this result, as long as I'm sticking with the same strategy, okay? And I'm sticking with the same strategy, whether it's moving up, whether it's moving down, whatever the situation is, I've already achieved 8%. Okay? But there is still that the need to dances with wolves, okay? I'm still dancing with the wolves, dancing with wolves. Okay, that's essentially what I'm doing. Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm dancing with wolves. Okay, I just need to be very, very crystal clear about what I'm doing. I'm dancing with wolves right now. Okay, I am dancing with wolves right now. Okay, right? And so I can make a trade, but that trade can easily just go against me. Look at that. See, the price is sitting right there because this is the Asian market. I'm currently looking at the AU, okay? And currently the price is sitting at about 45.38. All right, it's not fluctuating very much, but it's actually on a short time frame. The immediate movement the immediate the shortest trend is actually in a downtrend. Okay, all right, and even the bigger one is actually in a downtrend, but is being supported at 45.27. Okay, 45.28. So now I have to I have to figure out. Okay, so when the price hits 45.28, okay, so then I'm looking, waiting for something to happen. Is it going to bounce up, or is it going to bounce down, or what's it going to happen? Okay, right? So that's what I'm looking at. So those are the things that I need to consider before I put some significant size into my trading. Okay, right? And so when I look at EU, it's pointing down. Okay, it's pointing down right here. It's pointing down. It's being supported. It's being supported at about 1.16298, somewhere around there. Okay. So this is something that I didn't even think about. I didn't even like see. This is like, some people like meditate and stuff like that, right? Some people get meditate before they so on a personal level, in many of the instances, I would be like so like hyped up before trading occurs, okay? Because I want to make that money. I want that excitement. I want that addiction to continue for that period. And I would be so excited. I would wait for like Monday to come, and I would start trading and things like that, without even preparing myself, without even practice. In reality, what was happening is that I was lacking in practice, but I wanted to continue that addictive personality that I had on Friday, because I felt so warm and comfortable when I'm in that addictive state. And then when in order to extend that addictive state, I need to jump into a Monday. Okay, I need to jump into Monday and continue on with that, despite the fact that I didn't have any plans or anything like that. Okay, despite the fact that I wasn't aware of what the statistical things are, what risk is involved, not even being aware of not even aware of what's involved in unraveling to warming up. Okay, so in the Olympic athletes, even in baseball, highly effective individuals, they practice, they warm up prior to anything, because something could break if they don't, because their mind and body has to be coordinated. Okay, after all, I mean, their mind and body has to be coordinated. Sometimes it'll go out of sync, because what will happen is, during the days that the actual participation of baseball or trading is concerned, when the time is taken off, the parts of the body and the brain are used to perform other activities, and those things will coordinate a partial habituation towards the direction of habituating that activity that occurs on the outside. And so in order for me to reform myself in mind and body, I have to prepare myself, thinking about what I'm going to do. Okay, meditate a little bit of what's going to happen, and think about, and then expand upon. Essentially, what I'm doing is I'm downloading. I'm downloading what I'm going to do, so that it will help me perform to trade better. Okay, because if I'm not sure, I'm gonna latch into my subconscious, and usually when I'm latched into my subconscious, most likely I will most likely not even using my logical side when I'm trading. Okay, and so I have to be aware at any moment. Okay, I have to be aware. I have to be conscious. I have to be conscious that when I'm trading, okay, when I'm trading, okay, I'm dancing with risks. Okay, I'm dancing with wolves. Okay, I'm essentially dancing with wolves. I'm essentially dancing with risk. That's what I'm doing. Okay, right? Dancing with risk. And as long as I'm aware of that analogy of dancing or swimming with sharks, dancing with wolves, okay, I'm dancing with risk. Okay, in that movie, okay, in that movie with Kevin Costner, I mean, he's dancing with wolves. In Jaws, I briefly saw this on YouTube. Okay, in Jaws, the main character is dancing with sharks. Okay, but in trading, what I'm doing is I'm dancing with risks. That's what I'm doing. I am dancing with risks. And I have to be conscious of that. Okay? Even before the game starts, I have to be aware. I have to prepare because I have to prepare my mind. Chances are I'm not going to be always prepared all the way, but at least it's going to give me a little bit more. It's going to help me a lot because what happened in the past to me was this. Okay? I would be washing dishes. Okay? For 6 hours, and I would be so tired. Okay, even if I had buffet like 6 hours ago, before then, okay, and I come down here, sit here, okay, and then I'm trying to trade, but my mind is fast paced, is talking about this. It's even worse when I'm cooking, okay, because I have to interact with other people verbally, and that verbal thing reprograms my mind with the people around me, which is essentially dismantling the psychology that I need in order to trade. And that's why I have been suffering for the past. That's why it's good to talk with somebody who knows how to trade. Okay? Because the topic is on point about trading, nothing else. And so in the ocean, people are dancing with sharks. Okay? In The Outpost with Kevin Costner, he's dancing with wolves. Okay? In trading environment, in my world, I'm dancing with risks.